Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well. My name's Tristan. I want to talk about cheating because I'm just realizing how divided people are on this topic. People can't seem to agree on what even constitutes cheating. There's different levels of it, and there's emotional cheating and physical cheating. Everyone has different opinions on this. What makes it okay and what's not okay? Is it forgivable? Is it excusable? Things like this. And it is a complex issue, so I want to simplify it for you, which is what I like to do on this channel, and just give you like a better understanding of it and a way to avoid having it be a problem in your life. In my past relationships, if I ever said like, what reason might you see in the future if we ever broke up? Like what reason would you leave me? They would always say, if you cheated on me, I would leave you. And that was the only thing they could think of. What I find interesting about that is that all of those relationships ended anyway, and it wasn't because I cheated, and it wasn't because they cheated. It was just because the relationship just wasn't working. And sometimes it was circumstantial, sometimes it was just that, we just um we weren't going to like fit in a way that seemed like it was going to function really well on a day-to-day basis. But that doesn't even mean that the relationship shouldn't have happened. I don't look back on those relationships and think of it as time that I wasted. And I think that there is a lot of misconception about what relationships even are in the first place. People seem to think that, and there's a lot of reasons for this. I've talked about this in a couple of videos that I have about relationships on this channel in the past, but people seem to think that relationships are supposed to last forever. You're supposed to find your other half and then, make it legal and get married and all that and be with them forever. I personally don't believe in this. I think that this is something that, you know, um, that was come up with by humans, and it has no basis in anything spiritual or even logical. It just denies a lot of things that you will notice if you really pay close attention to humans and our behavior. It doesn't make sense, and it's not helpful. And that's why, so many people get divorced. That's why so many relationships end. And that's why so many people who stay together are not happy with each other and go off and cheat. That's because there are a lot of misconceptions about what relationships are in the first place, just kind of sitting idly in our heads. And you have to figure this out before you can understand what cheating is. But I am going to explain to you why people do it and what you can do if it happens to you, what you can do if you find yourself wanting to do it or if you have done it with someone else. And it starts with understanding what a relationship is. So I'm going to cover that briefly. If you want a more in-depth explanation, watch the videos that I've done in the past. Probably my most recent one was a couple weeks ago. I don't remember what it was called, but I remember thinking that it was better than the one I did a couple weeks prior to that. So anyway, this is just going to be a brief summary of what a relationship is. I think relationships are supposed to be when you find someone and you both feel a strong connection to each other, you both are able to help each other learn and grow in some way. And a big part of that is sometimes finding yourself thinking, you know what? I'm not actually getting anything out of this relationship. I feel like I'm evolving, I'm growing, I'm learning, and this person is just being stagnant. This person is maybe holding me back. Or maybe you're in a relationship with someone who's really manipulative and they're using like narcissistic tactics, for example, to try and keep you down and kind of steal your time and energy away from you. And that is something that you really have to be careful about because that happens to a lot of people. And I have made videos about narcissistic relationships too. I think my most recent topic that I covered was understanding narcissism. Excuse me. Um, I'm pretty sure that's what it was called. And I don't know if I covered all the aspects of relationships, but it definitely is a very common issue, and a lot of people talk about it, so it's a known thing. Um, I'm going to do more on that topic because there is a lot to cover. It's something that some psychologists will devote their entire business to, understanding narcissism, so it's a huge thing. And I definitely am not done covering it, but same is true with relationships. This isn't going to be my last video on the topic. Um, so regardless of the type of person that you're with, if you start to notice and pay attention and realize that it's no longer mutual, you're no longer helping each other grow, it's more one sided, regardless of whether it's your partner or you who is kind of holding things back, you have to pay attention to it. And sometimes it's not even a bad thing. Sometimes it's just that you are both still growing and evolving, but you go in different directions and you just realize that you no longer feel the same connection that you once felt. That's okay. You can try to make it work. You have free will. You can do whatever you want. But you might notice that it doesn't feel right at a certain point. So just pay close attention to how you feel. You're all, excuse me, my body keeps feeling like I'm about to burp. Anyway, pay pay attention to how you feel and make sure that you're not just doing things because you think you're supposed to. You're supposed to stay, or you're afraid of hurting the other person. Don't do anything out of fear. I think regardless, you're always going to be learning something, even if it's a lesson about like when to leave a relationship or how to have a healthy relationship. You just be willing to be open and learn from these experiences. Don't look back on them with regret, because that would only be because you didn't learn the lessons you were supposed to learn. It's not the other person's fault. Regardless of how terrible they are, you always have the responsibility to learn something from it. And that's why you never have to look back and say, oh, that was a waste of my time. It's like, well, if you got something out of it, now you'll know not to go for another person like that, or something, to that effect. So make sure you're paying attention. Don't just be dismissive of red flags, and make sure that you're okay with a relationship ending, because everything ends. You're going to end one day, and then you're going to have a new beginning. It's cycles. Nothing, everything is infinite, but also temporary, because it's constantly transforming and changing. One relationship ends, a different kind of relationship begins. You give your heart to someone, you give it to someone else. You put your time and your energy into something, and then you finish it. And then what are you going to do? Just sit around and stare at it for eternity? You start making something else. You keep going. There's always more. There's always something else to do. So know when it's time to leave. Know when your work is done and there's nothing else to do but just sit and stare at your project, when you could be creating more projects and getting more work done. That's a good way to think of it. And there are a lot of people benefiting from these untrue ideas of you being incomplete and needing another half to complete you. This just sets up situations where you're going to be in an unhealthy relationship and you're going to feel like you're not supposed to leave. And even when we don't believe in things like that, there are still a ton of ideas being pumped out into society that make us think that we're supposed to behave a certain way. So I think a lot of this comes from fear. So let's talk about, why do people cheat? First of all, what kind of cheating are we talking about? Emotional cheating, physical cheating? Emotional cheating, in my opinion, is when you're basically wanting to be with someone else. You may not have told them that. You may not have told your partner. You may not have even admitted it to yourself. But the truth is that you are basically wishing you were with someone else. You're looking at this person, you're imagining your life with them, and you're like treating them almost like how you probably should be treating your partner. The reason that this is considered cheating is because even though you may not be actually doing anything or acting on anything, it is kind of a betrayal to the relationship. And I think that if you are doing that, it couldn't hurt to just talk with your partner about it and make sure that you reach a mutual understanding. If you're afraid that that will make your partner break up with you, you have to understand that's their prerogative. If they really want to be with you and make it work, they'll be willing to hear you out if they believe that you truly want to be with them. Because the truth is, this is normal. This is something that happens all the time. And it shouldn't, in my opinion, even be considered cheating, because it's pretty common when you sort of reach a phase in your relationship where it's no longer like Cinderella dancing in the ballroom, and you kind of just start to remember all of the other parts of the world in your life that maybe aren't so great, and you start to think about how can you practically be with this person. And it's like the rose-colored glasses come off. You just don't feel that passion anymore, and that's okay. It doesn't have to last forever. You don't have to be in the honeymoon phase forever. Sometimes you just have to allow yourself to get stuff out of your system and explore, but you want to involve your partner in that. You don't want to do it behind their back. You don't want to do it in secret, and you don't want to do it with shame. That's when it would be cheating, because cheating, in my opinion, is just when you're betraying someone in some way. And that is a betrayal. This is supposed to be your romantic partner, and you're treating them like like a parent who you don't want to get in trouble from or something. It's not a great position to put the other person in. And that's why you have to be willing to talk with them and open up and be willing to forgive yourself too. Because like I said, this is normal. This happens. And if you have to forgive yourself and know that it's normal and know that it doesn't even mean you don't want to be with them. If you actually don't want to be with them and you're certain of that, you're certain that you would be happier without them, that's different. Okay? That just is different. In that context, obviously, just leave them. Just tell them and break up with them. But if you do want to be with them, but you still find yourself, I don't know, fantasizing about someone else or even the idea of someone else, know that that isn't necessarily a bad thing, and it doesn't mean the relationship has to end. Just talk about it, figure it out with them, and trust them to handle it in their own way. Trust them to handle the truth. So, because otherwise it would be selfish. You'd be keeping them around under false pretenses, basically. And you wouldn't want someone doing that to you, would you? I mean, you'd want it to be your choice to stay with them, not just because you don't know all the reasons you might want to leave them. Um, so that's emotional cheating, and that's why people do it, because it's just something that kind of happens sometimes, sort of like wondering if the grass is greener somewhere else. And it very well may be, and it might not be, but you have to kind of go out and explore in order to calm your mind down, because if you're just if you never acknowledge it, that is just going to live in the back of your mind forever. It doesn't even mean that you don't want to stay where you are. It just means, you're going to be wondering if there's somewhere better. And that's okay. That's okay. That's allowed. Um, Sometimes you have to go out and explore to realize that you were already happy where you were. Sometimes you have to, like, I don't know, even get a new job in order to realize that you liked your old job. Something like that. And that's okay. It shouldn't be thought of as a bad thing. It just shouldn't be done in secret. And it shouldn't be done as a betrayal. So, physical cheating. This is obviously a much more blatant betrayal because you're actually allowing yourself to act on it, especially if you're doing it behind the person's back. This is when you are going on dates with someone else, having a full on affair, or maybe even just like a one time thing where you just sleep with someone else. I think virtually it's a little different, but I still think it's the same thing. It's especially if anything that you're doing behind your partner's back, and you think your partner wouldn't be okay with it if they knew, you really should tell them and talk it out. Just like in the other emotional cheating scenario, you have to be willing to trust them to do what they think is right, and even if that means ending the relationship, that's that's their choice. They have the right to do that. They can do whatever they want, just as you apparently can. Um, but you have to be honest with yourself. Sometimes people will be in a relationship that has kind of expired, and they will feel that just because the relationship is toxic or unhealthy, and they have reasons like, I don't know, maybe there's kids involved, maybe there's a legal like marriage and they're afraid they'll get screwed in the divorce. There's all sorts of things. People will say, oh well, if my partner, it's I can't just leave it up to my partner because I think that they would leave me and that would put me in a really bad position. Therefore, I'm allowed to just cheat as much as I want and have an affair and then run off with this person and we'll be happy together. Maybe you did actually find someone that you could have had a real powerful connection with. Maybe. But it doesn't matter if you do it for the wrong reasons. It's sort of like maybe you found a better job, but you just quit your job in a really disrespectful way, like you were stealing from it, or you just up and left and didn't even tell them you were leaving, or something like that. Like, you know, there are situations where there's an ethical way to do something, and if you do it the wrong way, you're gonna notice that it's not gonna play out as smoothly as you wanted it to because you've burned bridges, you've excuse me, you've created like bad blood with people, and that doesn't just disappear. It will come back around, you'll notice it, and that's because when you make a decision that is based on fear and you're hurting other people, you're betraying other people, um, you're not going to get away with it. It's that simple. So you don't deserve to be happy with that person if you did it at someone else's expense. You don't deserve to be at the top if you got there by stepping on other people's necks. Because those people, if they survived, They might come get you, and if they didn't, they probably have friends and family who will come get you for stepping on their necks and killing them. You know what I mean? Like it's something you don't want to just justify because you think that you need to be where you're going. Trust me, if you actually are supposed to be wherever you're headed, you'll be able to get there while being ethical and honest and moral. I believe morality is objective, and I could do a separate video on that. I don't think morality is something you need religion for. I don't think morality is something you need any kind of belief system for. Morality is something innate. It's something we all just know the difference between right and wrong, and you know when you're doing something wrong. You just know, and you don't need anybody else to tell you. But when they do tell you, you probably don't want to hear it because there's this element of shame and thinking that, that makes you a bad person, it makes you disposable. That's probably because that's how you think of people who've done bad things. You think of them as disposable. Well, you shouldn't. No one is disposable. And, you really, there's no such thing as loving yourself too much. If you love yourself enough, you'll be holding yourself accountable. You'll be being honest with yourself. And it's not self love to ignore things that you've done that you shouldn't have done. And to think that if you acknowledge them, that makes you a bad person. It's not true. Nothing makes you a bad person except continuously making bad choices. But you can always choose to stop. You know, nothing's going to lock you into being one way forever other than your own free will. So, yeah, that's another thing that I have made other videos on. I'm bringing up a lot of topics that I've talked about more in depth in other videos, but cheating, let's stay focused. Why do people cheat? They cheat because they think that it's the easier option. They think that if they're honest with their partner, they will be inconvenienced in some way, whether it's a divorce, whether it's, a custody battle over children, whether it's just losing the relationship. Maybe they like certain things about that person. Maybe that person's like financially taking care of them or something. They are worried about how they feel, and there's no empathy or compassion or consideration for how the other person feels. You're not thinking about that. All you're thinking about is how it's going to make you feel. So you're going out and you're satisfying yourself, and you're doing it at your partner's expense, and you're not even, it's not even a thought that crosses your mind. There's a lot of, but what about me, and how is this going to affect me, and I'm scared to tell my partner because of what they might do to me. It's always about you. So it is kind of an inherently selfish thing to do, and that's why you have to relax. You have to trust yourself that it doesn't make you a bad person, and you have to be honest with your partner and trust that you can handle it. They can handle it, and whatever they do, you can handle, because you have to earn it. Let's say you did find someone that you really would rather be with. Do it the ethical way. Tell your partner, break up with them. I don't care if you have kids. I don't care if you're married. You put yourself in those situations. You chose to get married. You chose to have kids. And if you didn't, then even still, that you have to trust that if you really were roped into these situations completely against your will, I don't know, maybe you were like raped or something and you got pregnant and you weren't allowed to do anything about, like, maybe it was a situation where genuinely there was nothing you could do about it. It was like a forced arranged marriage, just to be hypothetical. And even in that situation, you have to trust that if you really were screwed over in some way, if you still go about things ethically, things will work out in your favor because they're meant to. You didn't do anything wrong. But either way, you have to trust that doing the right thing is always going to work out in your favor. Two wrongs don't make a right. That's an important thing to keep in mind. And people say fight fire with fire. Well, you know what you get when you fight fire with fire? You just burn everything down. You got to fight fire with water, and you have to trust that doing it the right and ethical way will ultimately work out in your favor. You have to stay in your own high vibration and not stoop down to the level of the people who are trying to bring you down. And you're just giving them what they want. So, yeah, people cheat because they're thinking about themselves. It's really that simple. And because they're afraid of judgment, they're too harsh on themselves. They don't trust that it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to be honest. And some people are compulsive about it. Some people do it like an addiction, because the truth is people can get addicted to anything. You can get addicted to sugar, you can get addicted to porn, cigarettes, TV, games, literally anything. You can get addicted to watching the news. All you have to do is ask yourself, Am I doing this compulsively and obsessively? And is there something that I can do about it? And all you have to do is let go of fear. Be honest with yourself. It's a bigger process. It's not easy, but go to therapy. Get something initiated to work on it. Don't just sit there and wallow in it. So, yeah, if you've been cheated on, you don't have to forgive your partner. You don't have to take them back. All you have to do is release them because you don't want to hold on to a grudge. You don't want to, be so hurt by it that you take it personally and that you feel that it's in some way your responsibility what happens to them. To me, that is forgiveness. Forgiving someone is letting them go. Forgiving someone is just saying, you know what, this is what you did to me. It was wrong, but you can't hurt me anymore. You're not my responsibility, and I wish you the best. That's all you have to do. Just wish them the best and then let them go. Get them out of your head. You're not responsible for them, and holding on to that grudge is not going to protect you from it happening again. You will not forget, trust me. Even if you forgive them and let them go, you're not going to forget what happened. You're not going to just have a situation come up again and happen again and be completely oblivious to it. You will remember, unless you were being willfully ignorant, which is a whole separate issue. But people who would be willfully ignorant, they wouldn't even be willing to think about the concept of forgiveness. They would just be like, they probably have an addiction themselves to the problem, and that's why they keep going in cycles. So you would know if that was you. And yeah, you really don't have to worry about, forgiving someone and then being screwed over again. That's not how it works. It's not what forgiveness is, at least in my opinion. So yeah, make sure that you aren't holding on to it and that you're also willing to listen to them and hear them out. Who is this person to you? Have you known them for a long time? Is this someone you think of as family? You maybe don't want to just throw them out like a piece of trash that quickly just because they made one mistake. You want to be a little more empathetic and compassionate. And even if you just met them, you still want to have a little bit of compassion. Be willing to hear things from their perspective and not be afraid that everything is a manipulation or a lie. So be a little bit less cynical. If you are the cheater, again, have more compassion. Think about the other person. Trust that it's okay to make mistakes, and that if your partner doesn't see that, that's their prerogative. You can't control what they do. You just have to make sure that you're controlling what you do. So, I think I summed up everything I wanted to say. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate every like, comment, and subscription. This is a very small channel, and I think YouTube is like shadow banning likes and comments and views and really trying to screw me over. I don't know why. I don't know what I did wrong, but YouTube doesn't seem to like me very much. So I really appreciate every attempt to make my channel a little bit more successful, because I do make these videos every week, every Tuesday at noon Eastern time, and I'm trying to just put some helpful information out into the world. So the support is appreciated. I hope you have a great rest of your day or night, and I hope to see you next time I upload. Thank you for watching.